We are live on the Virtual Grip Network, and once again, we hop in the DeLorean to travel back to 1966 for this season's YesterYear Tour Modifieds, where some of the best Tour Modified drivers have competed for one of the most prestigious and unique iRacing titles on the platform, the Old Red Boot. I'm Zach Chapman, a.k.a. Shaggy, along with my partner in crime, J.R. Shepard. We're lucky enough to have the heartbeat of EGN, the best at bringing all the sights and sounds, the one and only Ryan Seneker. Last time the boys came out to play, it was at the Martinsville Speedway, and rumor through the grapevine was got pretty hot in Virginia. 150-lap race off 5 cautions, leading to a final 40-lap sprint to that checkered flag. James Lowe was able to hold off the series point leader Tom Ogle, allowing him to bring home his first win of the season there at the paperclip. Tom would have loved to have pressed a little harder for that checkered flag, but at the end of the day, when he walked out of Martinsville 30 points ahead of Brian Johnson, he had a big old smile on his face. But as they say, every dog has his day, and man, Brian is sniffing for a bone here as we roll into Georgia with double points on the line. Can he find a way to make a deal with the devil and turn this points lead upside down? Or will the White Claw outlaw, Mr. Tom Ogle, find a way to lock up the championship tonight at the Atlanta Motor Speedway? Now, when we ran this race back in 1966, it was on Sunday, November 6th. It looked as though Hueytown native Bobby Allison was going to take home the first, or that win, but with 28 laps to go, he would suffer a blown engine while out front by almost 15 seconds, allowing James Hilton to bring home the win. Hilton would later, JR, go on to become the 1966 NASCAR Grand National Rookie of the Year. So tonight, I know Tom, he's got a chance to lock up that red boot, but man, what can Mr. Johnson do here to get momentum back on his side?
It's going to be tough, Shaggy. This track, it is tough. It's one of my favorite versions of Atlanta for sure, and the biggest characteristic of this place is that the track surface is very worn. It's super abrasive. That means tire wear will be a factor, I believe, tonight. The drivers are going to have to manage those tires, primarily the fronts. So too much steering input, that's going to increase your tire temperatures, and in return, you're going to have less overall grip through the corners. But I also think one of the biggest storylines tonight will be which line on the track to run in. These are the tour mods, and you would anticipate that low line would be preferred due to the lower speed. However, we saw earlier this year at Daytona how effective that high line was, and it played a big factor late in the race for that race lead. So overall, Shaggy, I expect to see some great side-by-side racing here early. But like you talked about with Mr. Johnson, I think with the way the points currently are spread out, you may just see some of these drivers throw some aggressive moves in order to get their name up on that winner board this season. And in a result, that could lead to some big contact out there.
Yeah, and I mean, double points, JR, as we touched on there a little bit. I mean, if you're Brian, you got to swing big. I mean, I didn't even touch on it there in the opening, but I believe, who was that? Was that Liston? I think, or no, Scott Negus. I mean, he's like third or fourth in points. Go ahead, throw it up there, Ryan, if you've got it. But he's got an EOL tonight. So, I mean, it's going to be even tougher for him to etch away at that. I mean, if you're Kenny Allen, you've got to absolutely win. If you're Brian Johnson, maybe you're okay with a top 3 if Tom comes into some trouble, man. But Tom, he's been almost perfect so far this year, JR.
Yeah, absolutely. Hasn't made a whole lot of mistakes, and he's somebody that knows how to race for the points. So he's certainly gotten the best points possible in every single race, no matter what the situation was. And that's what it really takes in a long season like this. No matter how bad your day is going, you've got to capitalize and get the most points that you possibly can during that event.
Well, let's go ahead. We'll get ready to take a look at that starting lineup here. 2 races to go with the YesterYear Tour mods. Man, oh man. Got a good one here. It looks like JR. Looky who on the front row. Brian, he knew he needed to put the pressure on. Goes out there, qualifies on the pole. Eric Essery, double E to the outside.
Absolutely. Inside row 2, we got Ken Allen in the 81 car. On the outside in that 51 car, Jerry Isaacs.
Tom Ogle lines up on the inside of row 3 to the outside. Last week's winner, James Lowe.
Rolling off in 7th place, we got Daryl Weiniger. And in the outside lane in 8th, we got Brian Bianchi.
Brian Neff lines up on the inside of row 5 to the top shelf, Chris Hazlett.
Rolling off in 11th place, we've got Alan Wanamaker, and on the outside in 12th, Luke Logan Allen.
Robert Gorisco lines up to the inside of Todd Liston. They're going to make up row 7.
Inside row 8, we got Torrance Childs in that 5 car. On the outside in the 25 car, Tom Hilbert.
And the final 2 cars, neither put in a time. As I had mentioned, Negus, I saw in the briefing, he gets a penalty here, and well, the double deuce, Bruce Pearson, he's also going to start from the back. But as he kind of mentioned now, you heard me too, JR, and well, I mean, we'll talk about it. We're obviously, running 1966. We're on the retroest Atlanta we have. I didn't call it the Echo Park Speedway for a reason. We're still running Atlanta, and while we will have some drafting, it's not as much current modern day Atlanta. You are going to have to drive this thing a little bit.
Absolutely. Early on at the slower speed, while the cars are still trying to build up that momentum, you're not going to see the cars move around a whole lot. But once they start pushing each other, getting that momentum, getting that draft going, these cars will have to work on handling. Drivers are going to have to work on the handling. They're going to have to do things to preserve those front tires in order to make this car work throughout a whole fuel run. That's where it's going to be exciting as we get closer to the end of that fuel run.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see here, too, as well, the pace truck going to get ready to pull off. But we'll talk about it as we move on a little further here. But, man, I think now, more important, as we look at the green flag wave, we are underway. We got 100 laps to play at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. JR, I would think track position here, very, very important for those reasons you said, trying to nurse those front tires. We've seen the aero change a lot here over the summer throughout the update. I think if you can get out front, that's the safest place to be.
It's definitely going to be the best place to take care of the tires. You've got all of that downforce, that air on the front of the car, helping keep those front tires planted, and that will help preserve them. But if this becomes a fuel mileage race, you don't want to be that car leading throughout the whole run unless you for certain, 100% for certain, have a partner to come down pit road with you.
Shame on me, JR. I didn't even ask you this. We were both kind of, busy with real life things before this, but we're definitely going to have to make a pit stop. I would think there's no chance, right? A guy hanging out in the back here is just saving, trying to go the whole way. I mean, 100 laps is a long time.
Yeah, absolutely not. You're not going to be able to go the entire race without taking on fuel. But if you're one of those drivers in the back using less throttle, being able to utilize that draft in order to keep up with the rest of the pack, you might have the opportunity to take less fuel. And these cars do take a long time to fuel, so any type of advantage on fuel that you have when you come down pit road, the shorter your pit stop's going to be.
Well, I couldn't tell who that was. Was that Torrance Childs who was down there on the apron? Oh, but I don't know how he didn't wreck that Tonka number 5 machine. Somehow able to keep that thing in line. Boy, oh boy. What a wild ride there. You don't want to go down on the apron, JR.
Absolutely not. We've seen that at multiple tracks this year. These Tour Modifieds, they do not like to have those left sides down on that lower banking. It basically de-wedges the car, making it super loose in the corner, and it's just like hitting a patch of ice. The rear end will come right around on you. So any driver that's able to save that, they did one heck of a driving job.
See there, the front 4 basically kind of lined up there, battling a little bit behind. Now, JR, you're going to get a little bit, but how funky these cars are kind of shaped. Is it worth, and if you're on the outside coming down trying to pull some side draft? This is an honest question. I truthfully don't know the answer, or is it maybe safer to stay up and make sure that car under you stays stable and doesn't get into you? I mean, these things are definitely a nasty car to take around here this quick.
They are, and I absolutely think it's super risky in this car to try to do any kind of side drafting. I mean, the side drafting would come into play, but these are open wheel machines. Any contact could lead to one of the cars or both spinning out of control. And we always know how iRacing is when it comes to netcode. One of the vehicles that is the worst when it comes to netcode is the SK Modifieds, which is the sister car to these Tour Modifieds. So gotta be, you gotta recognize that and make sure you give those drivers room, because you do not want to be somebody that ends up, coming into that netcode contact. I can tell you from experience that's super frustrating. So give a little extra room, be a little cautious. I don't think that side draft's worth doing.
All aboard the Double E there, as you see the 37 getting a big run on the outside. Eric Essery starting to make that high line move a little bit. JR, I mean, obviously it's going to take a friend. I think if you got two cars out there, I don't think maybe the high line, you can run it safely without that guy looking under you making a move. But get a couple of cars lined up. These guys are kind of opening my eyes here. High side may be the place to go.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. I really expect that low line to be the line you want to be in early in the race, early in a fuel run. But as you start to get temperature in those tires, as that grip starts to go away slowly, I expect that outside line to be the preferred lane, because you're not putting so much steering input into the wheel. You're not turning the wheel as much, and you're not, in return, bleeding off speed in the corners. You're not having to slow down like that inside lane is. Even though you may be wide open, these cars are not bogging down when you're in that outside lane. So I expect as we get deeper into this run, it may take to lap 20, 25, but I think that outside lane is going to start to have the advantage.
And there, yeah, as soon as I encouraged Eric, he kind of choked up there on the outside, and you could see he got a little loose there in the middle of 3 and 4. And JR, I think as this fuel load burns off, I mean, obviously only 8 laps in the books, but that's only going to get worse here if, you're not calm on that steering wheel. Any jerky movements, man, that can upset this thing.
Yeah, absolutely can. Oh,
there you see one.
Yeah, Alan Wanamaker, he goes around as a result of that. It's kind of the checkup effect. The caution's not out yet, but I believe that's Garisco as well down on the bottom.
And we aren't going to get one here. I should have said it out loud, so at least I guess then it's maybe still a thought, Jinx. But I literally was going to explain how if cars wreck down there on the bottom, it's just like when we go short track racing and you see cars spin down to the inside of the grass. iRacing doesn't always catch it. You can see there was just a check up there. The 16, the 9 then checks up, and I believe Gorisco just couldn't get the memo in time. And man, that's all the more likely here, JR, leading us to, I don't want to jinx it here, but you spread the field out like that, calm them down a little bit. Green flag pit stops. You better hope you practice coming down this pit stall full speed in one of these cars, because that is going to be a wild pit entry if we have green flag pit stops.
Absolutely. So this track, it is so abrasive, so slick, especially on worn tires, but it's even slicker down on the apron as you're approaching the entrance to pit road through turns 3 and 4. And in these cars, if you do not hit that right, I mean, we already saw the cars at speed touching the apron and getting way out of shape. So the same thing's going to happen when you approach pit road. And if you do not know the right speed to come down without the car getting out from underneath you, it can cause humongous problems. But I do want to touch on back on that accident that we saw, the checkup effect. One thing we haven't touched on in this race is how hard it is to see the car that's in front of the car you're directly behind. So if you're drafting somebody, you're nose to tail with them, like we're riding on board here with Torrance Childs, this is on top of the car, and you can see how difficult it is to see the car in front of Brian Neff there. But if you're in the cockpit, inside that race car, you cannot see the '07 car up there. You'll only see the back bumper of Brian Neff right there, and that's why when there's a checkup, you have no chance of avoiding it.
No, and I think that's why a lot of times as you see the guys there, kind of dodging and diving, swerving there. I don't know if that's as much swerving, JR, as kind of how you're describing, as much as that is necessity. They're all kind of looking for their own little window, to see something. And then when we get to corner entry, everybody knows where you want to be. And then they all try to get back to that same point. And when you do that, some guys, they end up meeting in the middle.
Yeah, it's very disorienting as a driver when you're right behind pushing somebody and you cannot see the track ahead, you cannot see your corner entry, you're not able to tell when exactly to turn into the corner. And that's why, just like you said, the drivers are ducking inside, outside, just trying to get a little bit of vision of what's ahead. And in return, that's when we see some mixing up happen. When we see Bianchi there in the 14 car kind of moving around, if somebody beside you is doing that same thing, it can lead to some big contact. And I do expect some more of that to happen once we get the side-by-side action built back up. That accident kind of spread the field out, but once we get 2 lanes back going again, it's going to be more difficult to be right behind somebody.
And obviously here I'm being ticky-tacky, JR, but if you're Tom Ogle right now, you came in that big points lead, you're running third. Is that kind of as low as you want to go? I mean, to me, if I get knocked back to maybe 4th or 5th on the inside line, that's when I get nervous and then want to go to the back of the pack. But right now, 3rd in line, I feel pretty comfortable. Now, I'm starting to get nervous. Like I say, I don't want many more cars. I don't want to be stuck in the middle. But right now, I think he's doing a good job of kind of controlling his own fate.
Absolutely. I mean, with the huge point lead that he has, all he wants to do is try to get past halfway and then have a shot to race up toward the front at the end of this. And you pointed out, he's running in 3rd. He started 5th, already up to 3rd place. He's in no mood to try to make passes and go forward. So he's going to try to ride right in line, stick to the bottom of the track, right against that white line, and try to stay as close to Ken Allen as he can throughout the rest of this run. Now, the next run may be a little bit different, but right now, Tom is in riding mode.
I believe that's James Lowe coming on the outside in the 07. It is the black and green machine. Battling here with Daryl Weininger. This is about as far, JR, as we've seen the outside line get. Battling right there for 4th, and then it seems like you can see the outside line, just a lot of gaps, not really close enough. And I don't know, right now, maybe with all the guys, how we've seen them fanning out up front, it seems like you can get enough draft to pull yourself to right there. But, man, if you don't get help, which he doesn't there, Torrance Childs goes low. I mean, you're laundry. You're hung out to dry.
Yeah, it's going to be super difficult for just one driver to try to make something happen on the high side. You're going to have at least 2 or 3. And even then, it's going to have to be later in the run to make that happen just because of the handling aspect. If the drivers on the bottom of the track are still able to handle and hug that white line without having to lift, they're going to have the advantage. But we can start to see, we had that accident that kind of spread everybody out, but you can see the bottom line, they form back up multiple times, but even once they form up, they start to get gaps down there. That tells me the handling is starting to go away. So if some drivers start to recognize that, like you're seeing Torrance go back up to the top here and maybe a few other drivers, I think that's starting to tell us the outside line can be the preferred line, but you got to get some drivers up there helping you to make it work. And if it does become the preferred line, that's where the drivers up front, like Ken Allen, Brian Johnson, they're going to have to recognize that and move up.
And, well, you're also, as you see those guys kind of bobbling on the bottom, Bianchi, and I believe Brian Neff, in that 60 machine. JR, you got to trust that guy to go upstairs. You're seeing him bob and weave on the bottom. He's struggling to hold on to it. That's a risky time to, put yourself on the outside, whether you own the territory or not. I'd say, 8 out of 10 times they make contact, that car on the outside is going to pay for it.
Absolutely, and that's why you got to make sure you give room. You kind of talked about that side drafting earlier. I don't think it's worth the risk here because of that movement that you're talking about. Make sure you're leaving at least a car width in between you and that bottom lane So if that driver on the bottom has something go on, has some type of disturbance or movement that sends them off the track, you've got time to react and try to avoid that crash. But yeah, it's something that is very likely to happen at some point, especially as we get later into the race and these drivers start to be more and more aggressive and they start trying to hug each other down or push each other down in the corners.
Now, right now, JR, probably not worth it here, but I mean, you've run these things a little more than me. I mean, if we're going on the last lap, if James Lowe is going to be a hero here for Bianchi, can we see a shove going down the backstretch in these things, or is it going to upset the car too much?
Now, you can absolutely push in these cars, even in the corners if you do it correctly. You do have to not move back and forth, which is difficult. You want to stay right in line with that car in front of you, and if anything, kind of push them more toward the right side of the car. That way, if it does upset them, it sends them up the track instead of down the track. But you can absolutely do it. The problem with races like this is that sometimes that car that's in second place cannot make contact with that lead car. Sometimes it takes that lead car backing up to the second place car, meaning you either drag the brake a little bit or you lift just a hair so that driver behind you can make contact.
And that is, man, it's definitely, obviously, JR, you're one of the few, man, the chosen one out there. Not many guys can think about that while trying to hold their line, focused up at that rearview mirror. Hey, I got to let this guy get a little bit closer. And honestly, I think that may be the difference. I mean, we haven't seen the high line work like this just yet. And I mean, Bianchi is not letting himself get too far out front. I mean, this is about as well as you can work together here at an oval.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to stay as close as you can. And right now, it's still early in the race. We're still in the first quarter of this race, so drivers don't want to be too aggressive. Right now, they're in learning mode. They're trying to figure out what works and what does not work. So this is essentially a rehearsal session for the end of the race. So you know when you can make your move, what allows you to be able to push that driver ahead of you, or allows you to even get a run to try to make a move on somebody. So that's what these drivers are trying to figure out right now, and they're doing it in a very calm manner. They're not doing anything super aggressive, but the whole time you better be learning if you want to make a move at the end.
No, yeah, I think you're exactly right, because, no matter how well Bianchi and Lowe are going to work together here, we've seen, I mean, they've almost been locked up, and now they've been on the outside here for 4 or 5 laps. What this tells me, JR, if you're not in second or third and, you plan on winning this thing tonight, you got to make your move almost at the halfway point here. And, I mean, you got to be on the mark. I mean, just absolutely set yourself up here from green flag pit stop on.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. So this is where, being one of the drivers further back in the pack can pay a big dividend here. So these drivers, they won't really know how much their tires are wearing until they come to pit road. Once you come on to pit road, you can check your black box and see where you're at. You're going to have to take fuel, so I feel like it's worth the risk of taking right side tires. I don't think that's going to slow you down any. But if you're one of those drivers that's been back here saving fuel, you can take less fuel, and in return, you can be a driver that goes from the middle of this pack to the lead of the pack as long as you've got somebody working with you. So, this green flag cycle, if we get there, it could completely change the outlook of this race.
Now, JR, sometimes obviously different cars, it really works different, and well, just kind of how well you work with the driver. But if we do indeed get to green flag pit stops here, is there a number you have in mind? Do you need you and 2 other guys, just 2 drivers? I mean, what's the ideal drafting scenario here if you want to make up some time?
It becomes real difficult in races like this. I've always preferred to have no more than 3 drivers come down pit road. I feel like that's how you can get onto pit road as quick as possible without interfering with one another, but then also get back off pit road and get organized quicker, start drafting faster, and not have to worry about what those other drivers are doing or trying to get aligned with you. So I feel like 3 drivers is kind of a magical number. You can get 2 drivers. 2 drivers can definitely make it work, but they have to completely work together. As soon as they hit the racing surface, they've got to be nose to tail pushing each other. And you got to have a partner. So that's what's going to be difficult in this race. We don't know who is actually communicating with one another and potentially looking to pit together. But if you get a couple of drivers that do that, I mean, they can gain seconds on the rest of the field.
Man, you made me crack a smile there because the number 3 would have been what I said too. I feel like that's kind of like the dream number here. If you have a guy maybe driving a little deep, he's got room, not going to rear end you, he can make a lane, and I don't know if you can just, like you said, line up quick, get out there. That may be a game changer. And that being said, if you're some of these guys at the back, do we think about a short pit here? I mean, I would think if you pit, you're going to go a lap down, and that's got to make you a little nervous.
It would definitely make me nervous. I think it's a gamble. We talked about the point spread. It's going to be a long shot for some of these drivers to try to get back up into championship contention, but a lot of them still have a shot to win a race. So I think if you're one of those drivers that is just going for the win, definitely try to do that short pit deal. As long as you can find somebody that wants to pit with you on the same lap, that could be huge. But I think it's going to be so difficult coming on the pit road. I think at some point we're going to have somebody spinning and they're going to come back onto the racetrack, and that's going to bring out a caution. So if I'm one of these drivers up front, I'm going to try to stay out as late as I possibly can, go as long as I can in this run, just in case that caution comes out, because like you said, you do not want to get trapped a lap down.
No, not to make you contradict yourself here, but just out of curiosity, JR, if you're Tom Ogle, right now we keep mentioning coming into the night 30 points ahead of that guy leading the race, Brian Johnson. Do you do exactly what he does? I mean, if Brian would, let's say, pit at the halfway point, 20 laps, I mean, you got to almost be locked onto him, right? Just make sure he stays in your sights.
Yeah, if you're Tom and you're wanting to, to try to end the championship fight here, then you definitely want to kind of do what Brian Johnson is doing. I feel like Brian, it's tough for him because I talked about drivers trying to do something different to get that win, but Brian's in the best seat of the house right now. He's leading this race, and I honestly feel like if he pits early, he's going to throw away a potential win here. So I feel like he's got to stay out. I think Tom needs to do exactly whatever the 27 is going to do, and at the same time, may even work with the 27. Help that 27 out, because sometimes that co-opetition, working with some of your competitors, is the best method. And right now, that's all Tom has to worry about. He's not really worried about these other drivers. It's the 27 car that's his closest competitor.
No, yeah, none of that NASCAR crap. This is a yearly playoffs here. I mean, he doesn't have to worry about that. He's earned that gap he's got. I mean, it's not necessarily the driver's attitude, JR, but I mean, when you're hardware hunting, I mean, P2's behind Brian Johnson the next 2 races. That brings him home the old red boot. And at the end of the day, that's got to be his main focus.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to get in a situation where you have to count the points while you're out there driving the car. You don't want it to be so tight that you're trying to figure out exactly where you need to finish or what you need to do to get that championship. So if he can just bring home decent finishes in these next 2 races, Tom will have that championship, and he knows that. And it puts you in a little bit of a vulnerable position because Tom, he's won a lot of races. He wants to go out here and win, but you've got to think about the bigger picture, and that's the championship. So it's tough. You got to tone yourself down a little bit at times, but that's all he's worried about, is getting that championship now that we're this far in the season.
Speaking of far into the season, we're ticking them off here in this race, JR. We're over a third of the way through. As we roll off at turn 4 here, we're 15 laps away from the halfway point, about to start lap 36 here, and that guy out front has led all of them. JR, I should probably be the man who knows this, really. I think the more responsibility relies on me, but we're giving bonus points for the most laps led, aren't we?
I believe that we do. That's where I am trying to, it's been so long since we've been here that I do not know off the top of my head. So I'm going to check on that, and I'll
Yeah,
get back to you. But I believe that there is bonus points. I mean, that would have been how the system would have worked back in the day.
I'm almost certain, and I was off 2 Tuesdays ago, so we'll blame Soup for filling in. He messed it up. That's just Soup. The Yankee, he's starting to power on the outside. First time he's gotten around Tom Ogle in that charge. Now, maybe momentary here. I don't know if it's going to stick. But as we go into 3, he does have about a quarter of a car length lead. But here goes Tom chin back in front here, JR.
Yeah, he's trying to, and I'm gonna go back on that comment you had on the laps led. I'm seeing no bonus points this year, so that does make it a little more difficult to be that driver out front. You're not getting the bonus points, but you can see the great racing that is forming up on the outside right here. Brian in the 14 car, he's trying to get some drivers to work with him. He's got 3-4 cars kind of in line there. And look at that push down the backstretch. That just shoots him into turn 3. And at this point of the race, or the point of the run, you're seeing that inside line struggle a little bit on corner entry. Now they're able to get it gathered back up and have that draft coming off of the corner down the straightaway, but they're starting to struggle on corner entry. And if you can continue to just inch forward, you're going to eventually get there. And Brian's hoping he can continue to have that 07 right on his bumper.
And you got to think the other Brian up front here is he doesn't want those guys to, come take the lead by any means, but he might like to see Bianchi get beside him because that would mean Tom Ogle, he's in the thick of it. I mean, anything can happen right then and there. So it's a double-edged sword. As much as you're, Brian Johnson, you love leading this thing, you're feeling pretty good. You might want it to get a little more active there behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're hoping that these drivers kind of mix it up and in return slow each other down. And you can see that side-by-side action, with Brian and I believe that's Daryl that's down on the inside. It kind of prevented Daryl from being able to get back to Tom Ogle's bumpers there for a little bit. And that's what Brian's hoping for, that side-by-side action kind of breaking up the momentum that inside lane has, because that's going to allow him to continue to inch forward, and that's the goal right now. But right after he was able to do that, you can see Daryl starting to close back up on that inside line. So if that inside line can stay organized down the straightaways, they're going to continue to have the momentum. But this outside lane, they're looking a little bit stronger now that we're on lap 41.
I really like what Scott Negus and Bruce Pearson are right now. Just kind of hanging out at the tail end of this front pack, JR, and neither of them you can see. I mean, if they wanted to, they could get way close, but why should they? If anything happens, they're giving themselves that little bit of buffer here to react, but not losing the draft. And what that tells me is, they like the way the car feels. They're just trying to ride to at least get to that halfway point.
Yeah, absolutely. If you started back there, there's no reason to try to go mix it up and, get yourself in a bad spot. And you can see they're giving themselves plenty of room. At the same time, they're close enough to one another that they could close back up to this pack at any moment. They just don't want to right now. And that kind of leads me into another point. So there's many different strategies that you go into this race. We talked about some of those drivers saving some fuel so that they could do a short pit on their own, take less fuel, get back out there on track. Another option is that if you're one of these drivers that's in the back saving tons of fuel, we talked about that possible caution when drivers are pitting. You could just stay out on the track longer than everybody else. When this lead group has to come in because they're out of fuel, you've got a few extra laps, and in return, you may be able to stay out with a caution occurring that puts you as one of the few drivers left on the lead lap. So there's so many different strategies. A lot of these drivers are much better at it than I am when it comes from being inside the car. But this is what's going to be exciting, Shaggy. I really hope that this race stays green because there's so many ways that it can go. If we get a caution, it's just going to completely mess everything up. But if we stay green, there's so many directions this thing can go. And you might just have somebody that you're super surprised to see running up front for the lead.
I mean, especially with them all kind of staying right there. I mean, even Eric Essery and Tom Hilbert, they're back there a little bit. I mean, they're still close enough that a good pit stop, you can make up a second and a half. That's not going to kill you, but you got to be aggressive. And there's not many races here, in the Tour Mods where you can say they were 6 laps away from halfway and literally anybody could win this thing here.
Yeah, I mean, anybody in this field could win it, especially if there's some action, and we're seeing more and more cars from that head-on view moving around. Not only on the straightaways trying to see where that entry to the corner is, but they're doing it through the corners. The car's going up the track, back down the track. So these cars are starting to not handle very well at all. And that just means that whenever they do make a green flag pit stop, that pit entry is going to be even more disastrous. They're going to have to be super careful when they come in. And the other aspect of that is you could see in the corners there, you see the sparks coming out from under the cars. That's from the downforce, all the air that's on these cars that create huge amounts of downforce. They're already low to the ground, and that downforce just pushes them right into the racetrack. Well, when you get down onto that transition phase from the banking onto the apron there, that car bottoming out begins to act like a skid plate. And basically it puts any force between the tire and the track, it just removes that, and the car will skid. So that's something that these drivers have to be thinking about. I think you may see potentially some unique pit entrances coming in, because it's going to be hard to just go right from that banking down to the apron without spinning out.
Yeah, and well, I guess obviously, drivers have the in-game chat or they have their button, but man, this is a nasty one too, because obviously real life, JR, you have any trouble, what do? You throw that hand up, you throw that hand out the window. We can't do that in the virtual world. So if you're going to go down there on pit road, you've got to be firm about it, and you got to do it quick. One bobble, I mean, we could see it turn into a parking lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see Tom there actually make a little bit of contact with the apron. It kind of moves some drivers around. But yeah, absolutely. So in real life, you stick your hand out the window, that lets the driver behind know that you're getting ready to pit. The only thing you can really do in iRacing in a conventional style race is that when you get to the back straightaway, you would actually weave your car down toward the apron and then back up the track a little bit. And that kind of lets the drivers know behind you, I'm getting ready to pit. Can't really do that in this race because you've seen that the Tour Mods, they've been glued to that inside lane. So there's nothing you can really do to tell that driver behind that you're pitting other than keying up on the mic. And the risk with that is that not everybody always sees who it was that keyed up on that mic. Oh, and we see some drivers coming down pit road, and this is one of the things I thought might happen. The drivers entering, they enter on the apron into turn 3. That prevents a pile up from behind, but also allows you to make that transition down to the bottom without spinning out.
This is going to be interesting too. You can see decent job there, but there is a little bit of spread between those guys, but that's the magic number, JR. They got their 3. So if they line up here pretty quick, nobody overshoots pit boxes here. It'll be interesting to see as leaders now. They just hit the middle of the backstretch. Gonna definitely go a lap down here, I would think, JR.
Yeah, they're definitely going to go a lap down once they start to get back up to speed. And we can see some of the drivers on pit road not taking tires. We saw Brian Johnson's car go up and take the left side tires. But so I kind of hope that Brian would be one of those drivers that would stay out longer, but clearly being a driver that was out front the entire first half of this race, he's had to come in and get fuel before the rest of these drivers. Now Tom Ogle has inherited that lead, but he's been back there saving fuel, so he's going to be able to go 2 or 3 laps longer than the drivers that are on pit road right now. And you see Ken Allen, as they're coming off pit road, trying to work with Brian there a little bit.
Oh boy, going over a lap and a half down. So they need this thing to stay green here, and they are going to have to tighten up. But rumor is, look, we got a busy pit road here, JR. Wow.
And that's exactly what Brian Johnson, Ken Allen, Luke Logan, that's what all they needed. They needed the rest of this field to make a pit stop. Otherwise, they were going to be laps down. So this is going to be key for them. Having said that, I do believe there's a couple of drivers. No, I think everybody has now come down pit road. Okay, so we do have Esri and Wanamaker that are on, out on the racetrack still. So 2 cars could potentially change the outcome of this race if there's any type of caution that comes out before they pit. So they're taking a chance.
Okay, so I am sorry, JR and I were being quiet there, but we're getting fed some stuff. And you can see Brian Johnson came down pit road, and according to my software, him, Brian Neff, and Ken Allen got black flags somehow. Coming down pit road, no idea how, but, well, is it too early for the White Claw Outlaw to crack one open here, JR? That all, but, man, that all.
Yeah, that's going to be a big hit for those drivers because once you go a lap down, we know there's no wave arounds. This is a 1966 rule, so no wave arounds or lucky dogs in these races. And I'm a little confused. I don't know if they got caught speeding. I also know that when you exit pit road, there is a blend line. There is a cone down there, and if you get back up on the racing surface just by an inch before you get to that lane, you will get a penalty as well. So I'm not sure what happened to them, but clearly either a speeding penalty or a blend line violation brought them back down pit road.
Tough break, and now we got a 3-man band out front. Jerry Isaacs, Tom Ogle, and Todd Liston here, JR. And if I am listening, I am just staying right behind those guys, trying to glue to those front 2, and we're going to make this a 3-car race.
Yeah, so Todd that's in line there, Todd knows how to get it done on this style of racing. I've raced with him at tracks like Daytona. He knows what to do, and just like you said, he's going to stay in line here. He's not going to be in any hurry until we get to the last 10, maybe 12 or so laps there. So he is going to continue to just ride in line, and I do believe you're probably going to see Tom Ogle do the same. So that's bad news for the rest of this field because these 3 drivers, they're going to get hooked up nose to tail, be turning super fast lap times, and right now they're over 2 seconds, almost 2.5 seconds ahead of the 4th place competitor.
How far zoomed out is our aerial shot here, Ryan? Let's see this puppy. Or the little closer blimp. My bad. Of the front 3. So let's see. It is interesting how JR said, all right, there you go. Yep, you can see him through 1 and 2. There's 3. And there's 3 more, JR. We got 2 groups of 3. I mean, which one's going to be the winner here? They are lined up nose to tail, both of them.
Yeah, it's going to be about which group stays the most organized. And it's interesting because it's 3 cars like you talked about. And in most cases, when you get a 3-car draft, it's usually up to that 3rd place car, just how well that group is moving. So it's up to that 3rd place car to really keep the 2nd place car sucked up to the 1st place car and making contact. You mostly want to do that on the straights, but that means the 3rd place car has to make it timed correctly. See Tom get a little loose there on the apron, but the 3rd place car has to time it correctly so that he gets a big run coming out of the corners to make contact with the 2nd place car and push him forward.
Yeah, and you talked about him flipping the apron there. Does that look like a big deal? Maybe not, but I guarantee you, JR, that you saw Liston have to kind of check up. That probably cost them about half a tenth or so. You do that enough times, those guys, they're going to get enough life breathed into them here that they may be able to make the run. But I don't know, right now, just not looking like they're tight enough there in group number 2.
Yeah, they need to tighten up a little bit more in Group 2, but they did gain about 1/4 of a second there with that bobble from Ogle through the corner. So not something you want to continue to have happen. And if it's any worse of a bobble, that 1/4 of a second could turn into a half, 3/4, maybe even a second if you're not able to get back organized and drafting again. So got to pay attention to that. Got to stay focused. This is the time of the race where mentally you're starting to get a little wore down because you've been turning lap after lap wide open. You've been right on the tail of some other driver. and you're starting to lose your bearings a little bit, for lack of a better word. So it does become a mental game at this point. But as we're watching that second group of 3 cars there, I see Scott Negus trying to get up there to him. That would be a 4-car pack at that time, and at that time, this group could really start to close in.
Read my mind, JR. That's where I was going. I mean, how important could he be here to play into this thing? I mean, he is really reeling him in now, too. And I think he caught him at just the right time because he didn't want to bring in those 2 cars behind him. There's 2 more cars lined up nose to tail right behind him. I believe Brian Johnson may be one of those cars, and he obviously a lap down after the black flag. But, I mean, still, Hayslip, he'd love to get himself up in that lead pack here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think Negus, caught that group, obviously had a great time, but as he was catching that group, all of a sudden that second group gained a ton of time on the first group. So they have now chipped away more than half a second. And with Negus now there, I expect this group to continue to chip away at it. And they've got 39 more laps to get it done. So I expect them to catch that lead group. And as they get closer, they'll be able to catch that group even faster. That's when that draft is going to intensify and their speed is going to really increase. And I really believe that when that second group gets there, they have to immediately make the move. If they don't make the move, they're going to stall out. So they need to make that move, and I think they will go right by on the outside if they have the right momentum.
Smart guys think alike, JR. That's where I'm going with this, too. And I want to step it up one even further here because the guys running 1-2, they're OBRL boys. They're buddies. They're friends. Mr. Isaacs and Mr. Ogle. If you're listening, you're the odd man out of those 2. You know that as well as I do, JR. You see those guys behind you getting closer and closer. Do you try to make the move now? Try to make something happen to get that thing, up at least one more spot, because the more people here at the party, the harder it is to find a dance partner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for Todd there. He was in a great position as long as it was just those 3 drivers continuing to maintain the gap or pull away. But as that second pack closes in, I believe Todd's going to have to make a decision to either stay in line and potentially go all the way to the back of both of these groups, or he could move out right when that second group makes that move to the outside, and he might just get lucky enough that they go with him and push him to the front. So it's going to be a decision that is going to be tough for Todd to make because it can go wrong in so many ways. But worst case, he's at the tail end of this group right now. Worst case is that he'll be at the tail end of the overall bigger group once they form together. But he could also be in a great position to just kind of take it easy and get a run late in the race.
And I like what he kind of did there, fanned up coming out of the corner, and that's where I was going to go with this, JR. I think, you got to kind of mark the fire hydrant a little bit here. Lift your leg and let the guys know, hey, I'm willing to go up top. Come at me with this big run, I'll go up here, we'll get it done. I mean, that 14, he's been the lead car, trying to go up top all night. That's Bianchi. But he may be willing to help you, if you got that thing rolling. But I don't know if it's something, if you're listening, you can just expect help with maybe not trying it yourself here once or twice.
Right, yeah, and he's going to have to make his intentions known early enough for that second group to even think about working with him. You see Todd, he almost got a run, almost thought about going to the outside there, backed off a little bit. Now that second group, they have caught these guys, and they have to make a move. I see Brian, he's already starting to look out. But that group that's been pushing him up there, they did not go with him to the top side.
Yeah, and surprising there to see even Liston. I thought, Bianchi got hung up. I thought he may have saw the opportunity to go up there and kind of ride the outside. But he stays on the bottom, and here he comes. Going to get this run on the outside. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, he's got that run on the outside. He's got Luke Logan pushing him, but everybody else kind of bailed. And, I'm really, really surprised by that. But all these other drivers just got back down in line on the bottom of the track. And really, really odd, Shaggy. I'm not sure why they would do that. because they had such a run. They could have just went to the outside, and most, if not all of the cars could have cleared that inside line, I feel.
Yeah, and that's something, you had kind of mentioned earlier how drivers, they were going to take it easy, but when you go to the outside, you kind of have to test. And here we finally do have a battle for the lead. Look at Bianchi on the outside. Can he get the power, though, through the center? This is where, you don't want to risk the netcode, JR, but if you're battling for the lead, you may want to get a little closer there through the center off, not let that guy rotate up. And Bianchi, he's going to lead his first lap of the race here on the high side.
He is. And, early in the race, you were leaving about a car width between yourself and that inside lane. Now you want to close that down to about half a car width, maybe even a third. You want to stay as close as you possibly can. But the big thing that's happening right now, look at those bump drafts from both the inside and the outside lane. That's what it's going to take to maintain the lead or get out in the lead. And these drivers are starting to push hard, but Luke Logan, he's been doing the best job. That's how Brian was able to take that lead the last time by.
See all over the back of that Culpepper's Bakery 14. Luke Logan Allen, that seems like the guy you want behind you right now. I mean, see Bianchi, he's bouncing a little bit, but Logan doing a good job of not really swerving to match there, kind of holding his own line, just letting him gather it up, and then as soon as he's straight again, hey, let's go get it.
Yeah, and you've got to time it right. You got to time it so that you've got your momentum. You're sucking up to that lead car right as you come off the corner so that you can push hard down the straightaways. And I've seen a few times where Luke was able to make that contact through the corners. That's great to do, especially on corner entry, kind of push that driver out in front of you and allow yourself to build that momentum up through the corners and get the run back on the straightaway again so you can push them on that next straight. It's an art, and you can see it's getting more and more rapid up front here. These drivers are starting to be more aggressive with those bump drafts.
And I feel like, you have to be, especially if you're on that outside. I think on the inside, obviously shorter way around, you can get away with a little less bumps. But did you see Luke go on the outside? I mean, you've got to be on that guy through the center of the corner if you were going to go that highway around. And man, Luke Logan Allen, he pushed himself up to P2 there at the line. I mean, that thing, holy crap, all aboard the 6, man. If you can just get that thing locked onto your bumper, that thing is a rocket ship.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Now, you've got to be a little careful with that. So if you continue to push hard lap after lap after lap, you're eventually going to overheat your car. So Luke does have to think about that. But to your point, to get that lead, it's going to take some of those super hard pushes for a couple of laps. And then you can kind of back off and relax a little bit or move to the inside or outside and get some air back to the nose of that car. But you do have to push, and that's that risk versus reward situation. The drivers that don't have a win on the season, they're going to be more willing to push that envelope there and take the chance of overheating their race car.
The real question is, who takes the ultimate chance here, JR? I mean, we're looking at it. There's room up there for one more. Who is going to send it 3 wide? Are we going to see it?
The potential's there. I don't think we're going to see it until we get inside 10 laps, probably more like inside 5 laps to go. That's when drivers are going to get aggressive, and I do believe the 3 wide will happen because at some point you start to tell yourself, there's no way I can do anything if I continue to run right behind the car in front of me. I've got to try to make a move, and that's when the action will happen. And you're probably going to see some of these guys that are toward the lead, the 14, the 51, kind of get shuffled out and be by themselves.
We'll have to see here. I mean, I think if you're James Lowe, Negus, you're maybe working the keyboard a little bit. Hey, man, how do we get to the outside? Got to do something here.
Yeah, I feel, it kind of go back to when that second pack was catching the first pack. They had such a run. It still blows my mind that they all decided to go down to the inside except for Bianchi and Luke Logan because, if I was those 2 drivers, I'm upset that the rest of the drivers pulled down because that was the prime moment to go get that track position, to go make the passes. And they just didn't make it happen. So right now, you've got the inside lane and the outside lane with equal amounts of cars. The only difference is that bump drafting that's happening, and it's such a slight advantage at this point. So they've got to find some way to build some momentum up once again, and it's going to be hard to do now that they're side by side.
And, JR, when you're down there, 3 laps down like Ken Allen is right now at the tail end of that front pack, I mean, not exactly the most fun time to be out there, but I'll tell you what, I can appreciate him going to the outside and trying to just make it move, but yet he's staying at the back of the line, not really trying to be a factor in this thing, but at the same time, I mean, he's helping this thing get racy. I mean, that's another guy moving that outside. So if Bianchi would be lucky enough, to take this checkered flag, I mean, you got a guy 3 laps down helping you work the mission here. I mean, that's good to see.
Absolutely, and one of the biggest reasons why he's doing that, number one, he wants to finish this race and get as many points as he can in case there is an accident that takes out some drivers. But secondly, that's his son that's second in line in that top side. So if he can potentially push the line that gives his son a chance to win the race, he's going to do it. And I'm all for it. Oh, there's contact on the front stretch there.
Oh, and no caution flag. Oh man, iRacing, come on. No caution flag there. That is a bummer. That is a real bummer. I mean, those guys racing up front. That's what you want to see here, trying to mix it up. And man, now the whole thing's full. That is a tough break there for me, Yankee.
Yeah, hopefully they didn't accidentally turn cautions off tonight, because definitely that has an odd look to it. But we look back at that wreck, it was just a push gone wrong through the dog leg between Luke Logan and Brian Bianchi there. They were pushing hard, trying to get something to go, and it just sent Brian up into the outside wall, got him some right front suspension damage, and as the other driver was trying to slow down, you see Bianchi come down and get into Ken Allen. You also see James Lowe kind of getting collected as far as losing all that position. So, really, it goes back to when that second pack was catching the front pack. If they had all stuck together and made that move, we wouldn't have seen what we just saw there. Drivers having to push so hard just trying to get momentum. They had that momentum and they lost it.
Now, okay, it's interesting to see. So they're listening and got back in line. I think he didn't know if he had a friend or not. I was going to get to this. I mean, now we got 2v2, JR. You got to think it's the BRL, they're going to power up on the outside, aren't they? Here they go. I mean, this is what we got to see here. BRL versus OBRL, 2v2. Who will bring this one home? I mean, we're going to have 21 laps of side-by-side racing here, I'd assume, JR. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely, and Todd knows what he's doing. He knew he finally had a friend that would go with him up there. And at the same time, Todd's been able to take care of fuel. He knows he can run hard, wide open, not have to worry about not having enough fuel to get to the end. So he's going to go up there and mix it up and get side by side. And this is the best opportunity for the outside line to finally pull off a pass, because we're down to 2 cars. Now, the bad thing, I see Ogle being a lot tighter to that 51 car than what Negus is to Todd Liston out there. So that's going to keep the momentum down on the bottom of the track. But if Negus can get up there to Todd and start bumping him, I think the outside line will finally prevail, because at the end of the day, we've talked about it, Tom is trying to race for points. The longer you're sucked up behind another driver just continuing to push, the bigger the risk is of your car overheating. He does not want that to happen. So Tom is not going to push as hard, or not going to be willing to push as hard as some of these other drivers. So I believe Negus, Liston, they've got to get nose to tail and start pushing hard.
Well, let's be honest, and not to put a damper on anything, because obviously Tom wants a good finish here, JR, but with what we've seen kind of conspire here tonight, I mean, 4th place is all but a win for that 13th. I mean, if he could just keep this thing on the racetrack, on the lead lap, at this point, I mean, oh boy, and he clips the apron. Oh man, maybe he ain't done yet. Now we got a new man. Oh, I thought Negus was maybe going to take that look on the outside, try to lead Liston, and he may. He's not done yet.
Yeah, I think Negus is trying to get that outside working, but at the end of the day, you got to have somebody go with you. You're never going to be able to pass 3 cars in this type of a race by yourself. The draft is just too much. So he's trying to continue to do that. We see Todd make a little contact with the grass on the inside, and that's just part of not having the good visibility, being right behind another car. And Todd getting on the apron slightly there. So these drivers, they're starting to be a little more aggressive with the lines that they're taking. And in return, you've seen Tom have a mistake where he hit that apron, and it could spell disaster. I mean, at the end of the day, these 4 drivers, they have pulled away to over a 4-second lead, almost 4.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. They do not want a caution. They want to keep going and have a chance to battle out just among these 4 at the end of the race. So if they keep it calm just for a few more laps, another 15 or so laps, it's going to be between these 4. But if they get too aggressive, they could bring out that caution that we've not been able to have all night.
Yeah, we're going to need a tornado for that caution to come out, I think, JR. I don't know if we're going to get one here, because obviously the first one going down the backstretch, I kind of understood that one, but that one, the sudden drop in speed there through the tri-oval, man, that is a caution almost every single time in an official race. Definitely an awkward one. And I think if you're right now, not to jump around here topics, but if you're Negus, and now Liston's finally going up, now he goes right back down. You got to be getting kind of frustrated. I mean, you're showing Todd, man, I'm trying. Let's go do this thing. I mean, right now, I'm not content running P4.
Yeah, absolutely. So, excuse me. Having said that, Todd goes to the top of the racetrack here, and then goes right back down. So I think Todd is really trying to figure out where to get the best run. He's actually trying to go to school and figure out what he needs to do. I know Negus is a little anxious. He's wanting to go up there right now, but I think Todd is trying to figure out exactly how to time it, because at the end of the day, he's got to have a run. He can't just go to the top side. He wants to have a run when he decides to go to the top side. And if he can have another car helping him when he does that, that gives him the best opportunity to try to pass. Negus is trying to make this stuff work by himself, and he's able to get slightly past Todd, but coming onto the front stretch, he's going to stall out. His speed is going to stall out, and he's going to go right back in line. If he can work with Todd a little bit here, let Todd figure out what he wants to do and when to get that run, that's going to give him the best chance. But just trying to go out there by yourself, it's not going to work tonight.
Yeah, applaud the effort. I mean, he is trying to get some side draft there. You see, he felt he got a little too close, going to move up, give him a little more room. But this is where, I mean, he is just watching the sand fall out of the hourglass here. I mean, we are running out of time, JR. Only 13 and a half to go.
Yeah, and you can see because that inside line is not staying formed up, that's why Scott is able to move forward on corner entry and through the center of the corner. But as they come back out on the straightaway, that inside line starts to pull back ahead of him. Now Todd has decided to go back up to the top side. He's going to try to push Negus, and if he can do a little better job than what he and Negus had early on going on, to where he can actually make some contact down the straightaways. You see it right there. Todd's going up and pushing Scott, and that's going to give Scott a lurch forward going into turn 3. If Todd continues to do that, they've got an opportunity here, because, again, I don't know how aggressive Tom wants to be pushing the 51 of Jerry there.
Yeah, and obviously if you're Negus there, I mean, it was a stretch. He came in almost 70 points down, I think, but currently 4th. I mean, he's still competing. He's trying to get his finish as well as he can in the overall season battle, but now listening, he says, I'm going to hang you up there. And, oh boy, Negus. Man, that is not, I mean, obviously, you got to run your race. But I coined them almost teammates here, being for the BRL. I thought they would work together, but JR, man, I am seeing far from that right now.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think Todd is trying to figure the best way to make a move. I think he's had enough experience up toward the front of the pack tonight to know what works and what doesn't work. And I think he was hoping that he would have more cars behind him. Obviously, after that round of pit stops, it shook everything up. We've got 4 cars running here. So Todd doesn't have the options that he had earlier in the race to try to make moves. And I feel like he's trying to go back to school and figure out what works or exactly when he can get that run. Unfortunately, he doesn't have anybody to help him because Scott's up there on the top of the track. So I'm not really sure what he's going to be able to do at this point, but if they stay this way, that really limits any movement from Todd Liston on the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, because you got to think, I mean, obviously, we've talked about it all night. I mean, it's been the story coming in, the big lead for Ogle. He's not going to do anything here. JR, I would be shocked if he comes off that bottom. I mean, if Isaacs wants to open it up and let him take the lead, sure, he'll take it. But he's not going to make a move here. So I think, you know, that's why I say the real pressure is on that 29 and the 87. I mean, if they want to go finish 1-2, they can work as hard as they want to work together on that outside to get it done. And I think from there, Tom will pretty much just ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost contact entering turn one there. We saw Ogle enter a little higher than what he had been, and almost coming wheel to wheel with Scott Negus, but they're able to sort it out. Todd's going up to the top side to try to push Negus here. But again, it's going to be about which lane gets the most organized, and you're going to have to make contact with that car in front of you to continue to bump them forward. And as those two are trying to get formed up, we see Tom Ogle pushing Jerry Isaacs on the bottom. So that allowed that inside lane to pull back forward. So you've got to be super formed up. You've got to be willing to make some hard contact, some hard bumps down the straightaway to push that guy in front of you out there.
8 laps to go here as we go down the backstretch. Negus trying to pull to the outside here of Tom Ogle. He's got P2 one corner entry. Just no help from behind here. Liston going to fall back in line down on the bottom. Get a little run, though. Try to meet with them here as they come through the tri-oval. Couldn't tell if he gave him a little bump. Maybe did there. The 29 with a big shot. Not able to get to the lead, though, here as we enter one. And once again, no help from behind. He's just going to stall out one more time.
Yeah, once again. And, you know, a lot of that has to, or a lot of that is attributed to the dog leg, you know, the double dog leg on the front stretch there. The drivers that are on that inside lane, they're just able to take a much shorter path down the front stretch, and that allows them just to pull forward. So being on the outside is a disadvantage through that section, mostly because you never know how far down that inside lane is going to go. You don't want to get so close that you make contact coming out of one of those dog legs, and the outside lane tries to give room for that or to account for that, and in return they lose position. But there's continuing to be more and more movement as far as these cars moving around. I even see Jerry Isaac kind of moving around a little bit in the corners, and he's been out front this entire time since the pit stop. So I don't know. It's going to be tough, but at the end of the day, it's going to take one really big run, and you've got to have somebody help you once you get that run, and I'm just not seeing that run get formed up yet.
They're going to try to work together again here. Oh, I thought Liston was going to make it 3 wide. I know he's trying to get that view there, but that big gap he's creating on corner entry, obviously here, JR nitpicking. But I just don't think without, you know, unless taking the risk here, getting close as Negus, he's got the lead entering 3. But once again, just no help from behind. Big gap as opposed to Tom Ogle right there glued to the rear end and just stalls out.
Yeah, and that's what, I mean, Tom's doing it perfect. You see almost contact there with Todd pushing Negus on the front stretch, and they're going to have it. But every single time that the 29 gets close to taking the lead, that's when Tom Ogle on that inside lane goes up and pushes Jerry Isaac out front once again. So Tom is not wanting to make contact or do anything unless he is having to. Right now with that 29 trying to take a lead again, you're going to watch this 13, especially on corner exit, come up and hit the 51's back bumper. There it is, to shove him back out in front. So Tom's being very smart here. He knows what he's got to do to try to maintain the lead on that inside lane.
You got 3 laps to go. Remember, no green, white checkered here. So this is it, JR. If we would have a caution flag here, it's going to end the way we run. You're not going to get any help here from a caution flag, which is kind of a shame, because if we glance back at 5th real quick, Ryan, they're coming. You're going to stay on this camera. They are coming. They are going to be about 5 laps short here. I mean, those guys have lined up. They have been reeling these front 4 in, but JR, with 2 to go this time by, just not enough time.
Yeah, not enough time. They've definitely gained about 1.5 seconds on this lead group, but they're still 3 seconds back. It's going to be super tough. Something's going to have to happen up front for them to get there. And at this point, there's no reason to hold back and wait for a last lap pass. These drivers need to be figured out. You see some jostling there on the backstretch. They are 3 wide for a brief moment going into turn 3.
Yeah, and, you know, as we come out of 4 here, we'll get ready to get the white flag. I think if you're listening, you can't expect Negus to want to help you here, as he's been trying on the outside all night. We've got the white flag waving, 1 to play.
Right, yeah. So he's probably not going to get a huge push here at all. He's trying to use that draft from the 2 ahead, but right now, I mean, Ogle and Isaacs, they are hooked up, so they are pushing each other, and I just do not see any of the other drivers getting by them.
No, and you can see there, it goes to the outside. You knew that was coming from Negus. I mean, I could sense the frustration from up here as we roll through 3 and 4. They're battling side by side here now for the lead. Can Tom Ogle get there? The answer's no. Jerry Isaacs crosses the line. P1 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Tom Ogle with a picture-perfect P2. I don't even know if I can wrap it up yet, but I'd say, man, they all but put Ogle's name on that boot. Here, double points coming on P2, and Todd Liston able to hold off Negus there for 3rd. Those guys were duking hard for that final podium spot, JR.
Absolutely. They're letting it hang out on that last lap. I feel like they waited too long, had to make that move a little bit earlier with the way these cars were tonight.
Well, we're going to let Jerry Isaacs here whoa her down. Let's see. They need to let that virtual flagman come down and hand you the flag so you can do a lap. Boy, that would be a cool feature here as he slows it down. We're going to take a few minutes here, let the drivers catch their breath as we catch ours. We'll be right back with your final rundown and interviews from your top 3 here on the Virtual Grip Network. Stick around. We are back live on the Virtual Grip Network after 100 green flag laps here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where Jerry Isaac came out on top. We saw a lot of stuff happen tonight, JR. It's a shame, we didn't get that caution with about 20 to go. May have shook things up, but at the end of the day, I think those guys, who were rewarded with a good, clean pit stop, they deserve to be those guys out front.
Yeah, it all came down to that pit cycle. We were hoping to get green flag pit stops, and we did. And those drivers that executed that, which is not easy at all, but they executed perfectly, and that put them in the position to where they were so far out ahead of the rest of the drivers. So that's what it takes in a race like this. It's not just going fast on the track. You also got to be fast and precise getting on and off pit road.
Well, Ryan, I let him into it. He's got that race results tab up. Let's go ahead. Let's run it down here. Jerry Isaac came out on top here in Atlanta. Tom Ogle, the owner of the old red boot, I would say. We got to do a little bit of math, but man, great night here for Tom Ogle. Todd Liston rounds out the podium. Scott Negus for Double E coming home 5th. Chris Hazlett 6th. James Lowe 7th. Double Deuce Bruce Pearson 8th. Lawrence Childs 9th. And Alan Wanamaker, JR, that's another one. He was involved in that first little tiff there. Didn't get the caution flag, but to stay on the lead lap and come home P10, I mean, after probably what was a boring race, good recovery there for Alan.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what it takes. Coming home in 11th place, Tom Hilbert. He's our last car that is on the lead lap. Brian Neff being the first car one lap down in 12th place. Brian Johnson led half of the race, the opening half. He'll come home 2 laps down in 13th after a penalty on pit road. Luke Logan Allen, he'll come home in 14th. Brian Bianchi 15th. Ken Allen 16th place. Daryl Weiniger, he'll come home in 17th. And Robert Garisco caught up in one of those early accidents. He'll come home in 18th place here tonight.
Let's go ahead. We won't waste any time. We'll go ahead. We'll bring up that 3rd place finisher. The 87 of Todd Liston. Shaggy in the booth, man. You got a copy?
10-4, I got you.
Well, Todd, it just seemed like, at the end, they have that mix-up on the front stretch with about 15, 20 to go. And, you see 4 cars. You're one of them. Were you thinking you were in a good shot to get this thing?
It was really hard to pass here for me. Just finding the right path to hold your momentum on the high side. Brian Bianchi seemed to have it figured out. That guy, he climbed up. Scott seemed to have it figured out pretty well too. And I think once I realized he wasn't going to let me do my plan, I was pretty much just trying to hang on.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that. It seemed like, I was putting a lot of pressure on you and Scott. I thought, you guys, the BRL, you were going to work together, but it just seemed like those two, man, Isaac and Ogle, there wasn't much you could do to separate those guys. They were quick on the bottom out front. Yeah,
I think they kind of teased us a little bit, and then when they get side by side, I think that's when they really start doing the magic. And it kind of gave us a false sense there. But me and Scott, we tried to do everything we could to get around them. I know we wanted to get up there, so.
Well, at the end of the day, man, a P3, this kind of field after 100 laps at Atlanta, that's a great result, Todd. Congratulations on the finish, man. You got anybody you want to thank?
Yep, I want to thank my wife, Caitlin, son, James, and daughter, Juliana. I also want to thank you guys up in the booth, putting on a great show every week. And I want to thank Alan and Torrance for putting this thing on and giving us a fun place to race on the weekdays.
Great job tonight, Todd. Congratulations. One more week to go, brother. Good luck next week.
Thanks, Shaggy.
Todd listed your P3 finisher. And now JR gets to talk to the man who, I'm not very good at math, but man, he might have his name on a boot here soon.
That's what the goal is.
Yeah, I think you did it there, Tom, for sure. I want to take you through the opening of this race. So what was your thought, number one, going in knowing what the fuel mileage was? I'm sure you knew from practice what you had. Was the thought to be one of the first to come to pit road? We obviously saw that you stayed out a little bit longer. Was that the original plan?
So I run OBRL like 2-3 nights a week, and you get a lot of green flag pitting. And I think a lot of other guys don't, like from other leagues, don't have that much practice at green flag pitting. So in practice, I kind of practice pitting a lot, just because you could fly onto pit road in this thing and nail it. You know what I mean? So that was the most important. I don't think it really it mattered who you pitted with, but like everybody had to get on pit road. You had to run the speed. You couldn't, you know how you get behind guys and they won't run the speed limit. So then you can lose like so much time on pit road. So I just wanted to make sure I had a good, clean, fast pit stop with guys, because you got to pit with guys or else you're going to lose half a second a lap. So I just kind of waited. I honestly didn't expect to get green flag pit stops. I thought it was going to be a way rougher race than it was.
Yeah, we were kind of, commenting that at some point during the cycle, we're probably going to at least get a caution, or even before that, and it just never came. We saw a lot of action that probably should have brought out a caution, and it just didn't for whatever reason tonight, which kind of brings me to my next point. So I want to ask you about how this car was driving. We know, heavy drafting around this place in these tour modifieds. We saw the cars kind of moving and bobbling around a lot. You were primarily on that bottom lane the entire race, pushing another car. How difficult was it hanging close to that white line on the inside without going over that line and making contact with the apron?
Well, I don't know if you guys saw, but I hit the apron a couple times because you're closed up on that guy, and you can't, like, if he enters different than he did the lap before, it's hard to judge where you're at. So Jerry stayed maybe, 2 feet off the line, and it made it nice for me because I could see the line. Then we started laying down some laps. But I mean, there's so many. Every car here, if this was real, the truck arms would be drug off, the shocks would be drug off. Like, you were sparking and dragging so much, it was crazy.
Yeah, we could definitely see that. Commented a couple of times on the broadcast how hard these cars were hitting, but ultimately, man, worked out for you. Congratulations on that second place run. Probably cement your championship run right there with one race to go. I'll get you out here on this one. Who you want to thank tonight?
Jerry, first of all, for just holding it steady and riding. I kind of thought I might have a shot for him if I timed it right on the last lap, but I could never get out there in time. And then I was afraid to get out there, and then you drop like a stone. But Alan, for all the work he does on this league. I mean, the amount of time he puts in is crazy. And Terrence, co-owner, and you guys for doing the broadcast. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it, man. Hey, congratulations on that big run tonight.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next week.
Yep, see you next week.
All right, Shaggy. Who you got?
I got the winner here. Jerry Isaacs. Shaggy in the booth, man. You got a copy?
I got you, Shaggy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, but not as good as you and Tom tonight, man. You guys, I mean, you were stuck to each other. What did it feel like? I mean, you were out front pretty much the whole time after that pit stop.
Yeah, man, it was very much a bottom line dominant track. So I mean, I kind of felt like whoever was in the lead after the pit was going to stay there.
Now, it's, you bring up the pit, so did I. How important was it? Tom had talked a little bit about it, but it's kind of one of those tracks where, I mean, good set of brakes on this thing. It's pretty flat down there. You could barrel in there pretty good. Were you worried about, a guy in front of you making a mistake when you made your entry to pit road?
Yeah, in front or behind. So, the first group kicked off their pit, and Tom was like, "Do we want to pit now?" And I was like, "No, let's stay out. I don't want to pit in a big group." But then the next lap, we lost like a half a second on our pace. And I'm like, "Okay, we got to pit now." And so we called it out, and everybody came with us. So yeah, it was really hectic, but you can brake really late and really hard on these things. It was awesome, and really glad we practiced that.
Now, obviously, it didn't get too crazy at the line, but you expect a little side by side. But after the way Tom had kind of helped you out, I mean, did that made you think a little bit, to stay to the bottom, not get that thing too wide here as you come to the start finish line?
Yeah, at the very end, there were only 4 of us there, and I've struggled this season with finishes, so I was just happy to be in podium position, and I told Tom, I said, I'm going to hold my bottom line. I'm going to hold this line. You do whatever you want. I'm going to stick there and see what happens. So I still felt it was still dominant there on the bottom.
Yeah, man, winning call. You got your first checkered flag of the season in an awesome fashion here. We got one race to go next week, Jerry, at the Hickory Motor Speedway, 200 lap short track race. You looking forward to it?
I really love the short tracks, and I mean, you've seen it all year. I can contend, but then I always do something to shoot myself in the foot. So last race of the year, hopefully I can just get up front for, compete for a podium and stay there.
Well, hey, Mr. Moe's in your corner. We wish you the best of luck, Jerry. Congratulations on a big win here tonight. Got anybody you want to thank before you get out of here?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys at VGN, you do a great job. My mom really appreciates watching, so thanks for that. And of course, Alan Wanamaker, YesterYear Racing. This is a great series, a whole lot of fun to race. So appreciate all you guys. Hi, Mom.
Great run, Jerry. And hi, Jerry's mom. Congratulations, brother.
Thank you, man.
Jerry Isaacs bringing it home. And, we got Jerry's mom out there as a fan, JR. We got another one in the book.
Yeah, I always enjoy hearing about the fans, and this is a great place to come and enjoy some good racing. Cheer on the people that that get on here and do the iRacing deal. It's very family oriented, very friend oriented. So definitely great to hear that we have that. It's always cool to have those family members. So definitely, if you're one of those, please get on there, chat with us. It'd be awesome to hear.
Well, Mrs. Jerry's mom, you can, if you want to watch some more, Ryan, go ahead, throw it up there. I mean, got one more coming next week. That's going to be the finale. And, I hate to be the spoiled milk there, JR, but you kind of hinted at it. I think Tom may have it locked up. So, we're going to be racing for bragging rights when we roll into Hickory next week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a tough track. So it's going to be an elbows out type track. And sometimes not intentionally, just with the way that track is shaped. It's very bumpy, very rough. Cars move around a lot. So I do expect to see a lot of action. But at the end of the day, drivers that are no longer in the championship, they want to go out there and fight and get a win, maybe carry some momentum. If not, even if it's not for a YesterYear Racing League, next season, any league, you want to carry some momentum and have that on your side going into the new year.
Well, that is going to wrap it up here for the YesterYear Tour Modifieds at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. I'd like to thank my partner, J.R. Shepard, the dude in the back, Ryan Seneca, and last but not least, we at the Virtual Grip Network want to thank all of you for tuning in. Have a good night.